Above that, we have various peaks. Snowfield Peak, right of the tower and a little bit above it. On flat prediction, but actually below it with curvature. Colonial Peak, pretty much in line with the tower, just slightly to the right. Flat predicts Colonial Peak will be considerably taller than the tower. Geometric predicts it will be not out of sight behind Brown Point, but lower than the base of the tower. And even with refraction, it's predicted lower than the base of the tower. So out of sight behind the airport. Left of it, you've got Paul Bunyan's stump, way down here. Again, out of sight behind the airport. On curved, but visible on flat. Just left of that Snow King Mountain, just left of that Liberty Mountain, which is, I know it's not obvious because it's got very crowded, but Liberty Mountain is the line that stops short, well above the geometric 1.1R and 1.25R refracted positions of Snow King Mountain, which itself is predicted above Paul Bunyan's stump. If you go for the flat positions, they are much closer together, but still Liberty above Snow King, above Paul Bunyan's stump. Next on the left is the Triad. Very ominous. Out of sight behind the airport, according to curved model, visible according to flat. Of course, Liberty Mountain might be blocking your view of the Triad. Then we've got Mount Chaval, Little Devil Peak, Big Devil Peak, 3 fingers. 3 fingers worth noting, it is tall. It is very tall. Even with curvature, the top of 3 fingers is above the top of the tower. And a similarly tall White Horse Mountain to the left, and then farther left than that there is Lookout Mountain, which I included but needn't have bothered including because it is too far left to matter and too low to matter. Look how far down that is. Even with flat, Lookout Mountain is pretty much level with the runways. You're not going to see Lookout Mountain, don't worry about it. To identify what you do see, I turned to the actual Peak Finder website, with which I am in no way associated. This is the view from the location. Again, the wrong location, because this cold is starving my brain of oxygen and I'm not paying as much attention as I should. But nearly the right location. This is the view across the water in, well, it says 29 degrees rather than 31 in the top right, but pretty much the right direction. And you can see Meadow Mountain, Mount Bull and Mount Pilchuck, they're not listed. Liberty Mountain, which is, Bull Mountain West Peak, which isn't. That's not great. Fortunately, that website lets you zoom in. And now we can see 3 fingers, the tall one, White Horse Mountain farther left, and Liberty Mountain with that distinctive, looks like it was drawn by a child shape, with a little bump of Jumbo Mountain to its right. And there's no label on the one to the right of Liberty Mountain, which is not helpful. But now that I've got that outline, I can match it to the actual video, and there you go. Not sure about this black line in the foreground on the right, but over on the left you've got a brown line which appears to be the crest of Point Robinson. There are a couple of pale creases showing up in strange places. That tower ain't shown. It's not showing any of those towers. It doesn't have a dark enough line in it to show Brown Point, but it does show Liberty Mountain and 3 fingers pretty well. Notably, they're not a perfect match, possibly because I had the camera 30 meters out of place, but at that distance that shouldn't make all that much difference. Not a perfect match, but we can at least identify Liberty Mountain. Having identified Liberty Mountain, we can overlay what we've drawn onto it. Now, up in the upper right, you can see the tower at SeaTac, that is Seattle Tacoma International Airport's control tower, with the flat predicted summit height position on top of it. So if that tower is where it should be. If the Earth is flat, then the rest of the flat stuff is where everything else should be. And straight away you can see Liberty Mountain isn't where it should be. Liberty Mountain's little flat marker is nearly at the top of the screen, and its actual position is more than halfway down to its 1.25R predicted position. Left of it, the next one, out of sight somewhere. And way over on the left, you've got three fingers, which is the left one of that pair. You have the geometric 1.1 and 1.25R predictions on screen. I keep right-clicking. It's starting to annoy me. The flat predicted position is off the top of the screen. The mountain is on the screen. So this isn't really matching. Also over on the right, unnamed, unlabeled, unpredicted mountain just right of the tower. Just, it's not in my calculations, and it's not in Peak Finder's calculations. So I don't know quite what's going on there. But in the foreground on the right, we have Brown Point. You'll notice the upper pale green line for Brown Point is way too far to the left and way too far down. Now, Brown Point isn't all that far away. Maybe me having calculated the view from 30 metres too far right explains the green line extending 30 metres too far left at that distance, if that is about 30 metres. And maybe the water was a bit higher when this video was made than it was when the satellite photographs were taken, from which I got the coast positions around Brown Point. But it doesn't match Brown Point anyway. This flat prediction of where the tower top should be, it's not lining up the coastline at Brown Point with the coastline at Brown Point. It's not lining up any of the summits with the summits. You've got that pale blue SeaTac coast down out of sight behind the water, which, if the water's completely flat, it really shouldn't be. And basically, that sucks. So let's move it a little. Just move it up, just a little. To line up, what do we line up? I know I lined up something. I did it only a few minutes ago. This cold hasn't starved my brain of so much oxygen I can't remember what the heck I did. Oh, Point Robinson, over on the left. The upper green line on the left is the coast at Point Robinson. If that water is completely flat, then the top edge of the visible water below the visible Point Robinson must be that coastline. So I've lined up that green line with that part of the image. And now you can see that none of the mountains match, and the tower doesn't match, and Brown Point doesn't match, and this prediction sucks. So, try another lineup. Now we've got Brown Point on the right lined up. Prediction for Dash Point has been shifted off to the right, so Dash Point should be visible is not actually a useful prediction. But now that Brown Point coast is lined up, you can see that the tower is nothing like lined up, the peaks are nothing like lined up, Point Robinson is too low, far too low, the water is too low, there is predicted water up behind the Brown Point lighthouse and its associated hut, and from there all the way to the coast at SeaTac, which is predicted where the top of the ship's hull is. So this prediction sucks. So let's try the other one. Let's try geometric prediction with no refraction. Let's line up the geometric tower top with the top of the tower there. And what we find is that Liberty Mountain is slightly too far left, but it's at the right height for the 1.25R prediction. And farther left, you've got three fingers at the right height for 1.25R prediction. And in the foreground, Brown Point is just a little too high for its prediction. And on the left side, Point Robinson is, it's about right. So we're a lot closer.